What is going on, YouTube? It's your boy Spanko, and today I'm joined with the one, the only Rehan, and he actually just won the Remote Duel Invitational, literally like an hour ago or something. And funny enough, today's video was supposed to be my Tri Brigade list, but I mean, I think he deserves a spotlight in today's video. So, take it away, bro. Congratulations. I know you've worked hard. If you guys haven't watched the Dollar Store Duel, go check that out. And then, yeah, Rehan, take it away.
Sure. Thanks, Spanko, for having me on the channel again. Yeah, so my name's Rehan Saeed. I just won, like literally an hour ago. I won the North American Summer Invitational Championships with Zoodiac Tri Brigade. We just wrapped up day two an hour ago, played 4 rounds of Swiss yesterday. I think all the games are very hard. And then Spanko obviously, wanted me to showcase the list, so hopefully you guys can take something away from it.
One thing I wanted to ask you was I know we were talking about this earlier, but I guess we might as well let them know. Is your deck was built specifically to be, you said, try and prank kids, right?
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
So the main deck that you guys are going to see is it's designed for the mirror match and it's designed for prank kits because obviously if you've been keeping up with the meta as of date because it's gotten a bit stale, prank kits and Tri Brigade are the most successful and most represented decks in the metagame at the moment. But I did only face one Tri Brigade, and that was also just in top cut.
Which is
Uh,
really sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but that's
yeah.
really surprising, low key, because this is such a highly represented deck.
It is, and for the Invitational as well. The deck was also very represented. The most represented decks at the Invitational, there were five Zoodiac Tri Brigades. There were two Prank Kids, two Dragon Links, two Virtual Worlds. So even representation across the board there.
Yeah.
One Striker, one Mind Burn, one Magical Musketeer, and one Dogmatica Invoke Shaddoll. I don't think I'm forgetting anything else.
Yeah. So that's kind of awkward that you actually didn't get to play one. And your finals
Yeah.
obviously was against Virtual World, who, if
Mhm.
anyone didn't watch the actual final game or like the interview after, Rehan kind of explained it, but he played this guy apparently 3 times, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, he was kind of worried going into like I guess the finals because I mean you had tied with him earlier for the tournament,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. And the guy he was very nice, so it made my finals experience very comfortable. I enjoyed it a lot. I wasn't nervous at all. And secondly, he's a really good pilot. Like round two, when we tied, I went first, both games one and two, right? And I had like Apo for three, a revolt, double imperm, and a Valor in hand, and the guy just broke it and OTK'd me, and like I was just blown out game one. Game two,
Oh,
I did the exact same thing, right? And I barely won, but I just won just because like time was up and I had more damage on board,
yeah.
right? So he's a really good pilot when virtual pops up, right? And unfortunately for him, it just didn't work in the finals because he used up all his luck round two.
Yeah, I was about to say that's what happens when you play Virtual World. You pop off, you pop off. You don't really do anything. Anyways, Rehan, yeah, let's get into the profile.
Yeah, sure thing. So, for anyone that's seen a Tri Brigade deck profile before, it's very, very, very standard. There's no secret sauce here. But what I will say is that Kara's kit carried me. It's so good. A lot of the times, Kara's kit just lets you extend past at least a minimum of like one hand trap, but also lets you construct your board in a way that's very resilient to like things like Nibiru, Phantasme, Imperm, right? Because like Kara's kit, like unless they have to ash you here. If they ash you here, it hurts.
Okay.
And so if any one of you watched my round four match, or if you want to go back and watch it, my Dragonling opponent, like when I led with Kara's kit, he ashed the kit, which is correct, right?
Okay.
And for some reason, I didn't value the engine against Dragonling. I wanted to see non-engine. So I led with Kara's kit so that my desires wouldn't be ash. And so I went with desires, and I drew like double strike, which just carried me that entire game. But in my top cut match against the mirror, I led with desires, hoping he'd ash it, and he did, just so that my Karis kit would resolve, right? And I
Okay.
can just obviously extend pass, and the only thing you lose to at that point would be like a Meister or something.
Okay. Okay.
But Karis kit has been exceptional. A lot of the times also is that when you lead with Karis kit, you can do your full combo without normal summoning. So
Mm-hmm.
that if you play into, for example, a Lancia, if your opponent double hand traps you with Ash or Veilor or something like that, you can lead with the Zoo going into a board. And so Kira's kit is really powerful going second into a board just because there's so much going on and there's so much value being generated that your Zodiac engine can thrive when you sort of picked apart your opponent's disruptions, right? Whether that be Strike, Call by the Grave, Imperm, etc. Then your Zoo engine can thrive and just accumulate a lot more value. So
Okay,
Kira's kit is really good for going second.
and would you say that there's any time anywhere there's a situation where you would rather do the zoo stuff first and then do the try stuff, or do you think this try let your opponent use all their hand traps, all their disruptions on the try, and then go into the zoo stuff later? What do you think is the better play? I guess I
Yeah,
should
so
ask.
it sort of depends, right? Like if your opponent is very committed to like the front row, right? So like things like, Appaloosa, Dragoon, Crystal Wing, things like that.
Yep.
But doesn't have a lot of back row. Because the Tri Brigade cards play really well into back row,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because they'll pick cards off, right? If you have a revolt, you can obviously just regain all your resources back. But they don't play really well into a monster heavy board. So if the opponent, for example, has a really heavy monster board, I'll try to lead with the Zoodiac cards just so I can bait negates and clear
There
the
we go.
monsters,
Okay.
and then lead with my Tri Brigade cards.
Okay.
Um, but sometimes it's sort of weird. Like you also have to gauge the power of the other cards in your hand. Uh, for example, if you're playing against a mirror match, sometimes you just need to value the revolt really well because the Zeus is nice, but the Zeus isn't going to cure your engine, right? You're going to just burn out of Zoo cards very easily.
Okay.
Or like if I have like revolt, I try to prioritize the Tri Brigade stuff because that can be regenerated later,
Okay.
and then lead with the Zodiac stuff.
All right.
So that's my thought process. We have our mini Zodiac stuff. Not much to say here. This combos, this does stuff. The nice thing is that in the mirror, sometimes what's really nice is that you can actually search Rapier with Tanky, and then normal summon Thoroughblade, and then get the draw from the
Yep.
Thoroughblade as well,
Yeah.
which is nice because it sets up your combo, but also threatens the Zeus. Right, so
Okay.
going second, if they negate it with Appaloosa, then what happens is that you keep the card in hand, obviously, but
Mm-hmm.
now the Apple is only at 16, and your Thoroughblade is going to be at 17 now. So any Zoodiac just beats over
It's
that.
big enough. Yeah. Okay.
It's big enough to beat over that, and now your Zeus doesn't have to contest with an Appaloosa.
All right.
So that was nice. Obviously, really good cards. They really go well when you're leading with the Kira's kit line, just because you
Yeah.
can sort of bait out disruptions and then go with Zeus.
Mm-hmm.
Triple Tenki,
Of course.
really good card. Always played at 3. Never play a Zodiac Tri Brigade with 0 Tenkis.
Of course. You know, the thing that I
Triple
like about Tenki is, sorry, just before I continue
No,
here, is actually because the next card that I'm seeing on your spells is your Barrage as well.
mhm.
Tenki and Barrage together is just so insane.
Yeah, for sure. Because this sort of guarantees you like another card
Yeah.
in follow up. And so that's nice. But the other value from Tenki that's really strong is that in the invitationals, and this is something that's catching up in a lot of popularity in terms of the metagame as well,
Mm-hmm.
is the fact that people are running Ravelry now, right? So Tenki is your out to Ravelry in the shape of Fractal going into Double Dragon Lord, right?
Oh,
And then when
okay.
you go into Double Dragon Lord, now you have a free scent for the Ravelry as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so that's really valuable because I got hit with Tenki by both both Dragon Link players,
Yep.
and the Magical Musket player I played. They all played Ravelry. So Ravelry is really catching up in the metagame, and Tenki's a really nice sort of free out to that. Just because you're not losing advantage per se when you're trying to out Ravelry.
Yeah.
If you let with just if you normal summon Fractal, then sure that still outs the Ravelry, but now you're sort of technically minusing a card to temporarily take care of the Ravelry.
Yeah. Yeah, and then
So
you still after the Tenki, you still threaten the Double Dragon Lords on the board because you're just sending a
exactly,
Tenki, right? So yeah. Okay.
exactly. The other nice thing is I also play droplets,
Oh,
so
okay.
Tenki is really nice. Just droplets flutter as well sometimes.
Okay. Yeah.
Desires. This card's nice. Because sometimes, depending on your hand, you can lead with the desires to bait an ash, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like at the Invitational, sometimes some of the better Tri Brigade players they sort of fell for their own experience because normally when a Zodiac Tri Brigade player leads with desires, it means they don't have a starter
Yeah.
because you don't want to lead with desires in the case that you banish your revolts, you banish your engine cards.
Mm-hmm.
You want to thin out your deck as much as possible so that when you're using desires, you're banishing, not vital pieces, but you're also thinning out your deck so that you can go into non-engine defensive cards,
Yep.
right? Because if you lead with desires, there's a better likelihood of you drawing into engine cards, which don't mesh well when you already have engine as well.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the time, people will see a first activation desires as a sign that you've bricked. So sometimes you can actually just bait an ash with it, or like bait a negation with leading with desires, and that's what I did with my top cut opponent. Is that I led with desires,
Oh.
hoping he would ash it because I had Kick Keras in hand.
So you
Right?
wanted to
So
make it seem like you had a bad hand,
exactly.
but in
Right. I needed
reality, you wanted just him to get rid of the ash. That's smart. Okay.
right. So because I had Kick Keras and Kick Keras, if he uses Ash on the kit, then I have such an awkward hand because A, I don't have enough materials to banish with Keras. D, any one of my normal summons don't do enough, right? To the point where I'm actually generating an engine advantage.
Okay.
And obviously in the mirror, whoever sets up their engine first is in a really, really favorable
Yeah.
position. So desires is really nice from that perspective, is that sometimes you can just take advantage of your opponent's own experience and their own sort of, way of playing. So
This
good
is
stuff.
500 IQ, 200 IQ,
Barrage, good
of
card.
course.
Calm the Grave, really good card. Uh, yeah, sometimes like the deck is nice because a lot of times you can sort of like gauge what your opponent has and
Mhm.
lead with different cards, just like to bait out certain cards. Like in the finals, I also drew Kit Karas,
Mhm.
right? But I used Tenki to search a fractal. Sent fractal because my opponent said two, and I assumed one of them would be Call by the Grave, and I made the right read because my opponent Call by the Grave my fractal, which is perfectly fine by me because now I like with Kit Karas. So mitigating the effect of the Call by the Grave, and essentially he just went -1.
Yeah. So essentially, okay, I see what you're saying. So what you're saying is pretty much you're using cards as if you need them, right, for your combo to go
Exactly.
off, but you really are just trying to
Exactly.
bait out as much stuff as possible, and you're just gonna go in.
Exactly. And I think
Okay.
like because of this format has a lot of non-defensive, non-engine defensive cards, sometimes you just need to construct your sequencing in a way that you're trying to pick out as many unknowns as possible
Hmm.
because the game state is a lot more manageable when you have knowledge about what your opponent has or doesn't have.
Okay.
So like in that theory, like one of the strongest Brigade end boards, right, quote unquote,
Hmm.
is Appaloosa for 3 and the Revolt,
Yeah.
right?
Of course.
Because through Appaloosa technically has all three negates live because your opponent can't just run it over in battle phase because you had the Revolt. But
Hmm.
that's also one of Brigade's like weakest openings because they've consolidated a lot of their resources into the Appaloosa, which now loses to an Imperm or a 2400 Phantasm, obviously, right?
Or potentially a droplet, I guess.
Or I'll drop it as well, right? So
Yeah.
you've consolidated your resources there, and you have the revolt. But in that opening, you go -1, and your opponent has a lot more information about what you have in your hand,
Okay.
right? Because you put back one card for the revolt. So your opponent knows that you have the revolt, and you've used a lot of materials, because you use two tribes to get to your kit, or like at least one tribes to get to your kit, right?
Yeah.
Uh, sorry, not kit, blossom to eventually go into your Appaloosa. Excuse me. So because of that, your opponent has a lot more information as to like what you have and what they have to play around. And I think knowing what you have to play around is a lot easier than playing around like set four
Okay. Yeah. Of course.
because you just don't know what your opponent has, right? And so
Hmm.
you don't know what you're playing around.
Okay.
So from that point of view, I think that opening is also just very weak.
So
Um,
I have a
yeah.
question here because I just see that you have the two revolt. I was gonna say, I personally like playing three revolt because just like because of what you just explained, I personally sometimes like to open the revolt, rather than
Um,
searching it. Right.
yeah, which
So
isn't wrong.
yeah.
And that's a big consensus within the player base is that opening revolt is really good. Obviously, because when your opponent just wastes hand traps on you, you set revolt. You just regain everything back, and
Yeah.
right, you have blood disruption. I thought about that, and then so one of the players that I built this deck with, right? I built this deck with Asala and some other players,
Okay.
some really good players. And so like some of them were really advocating for three revolt, while some of them were saying that two is fine. And I felt that two was fine because this deck needs to be able to go second, right?
Of
Going
course.
first, you're generating so much advantage from just like 1 to 2 cards that your other cards can just be easy like weak defensive cards.
Hmm.
But the revolt being searchable just makes it so that I felt really comfortable in playing two revolt, but then upping one of my other defensive cards.
Oh, okay.
Um, and like I just like it's nice to open, and I actually did open this a lot, but I just felt like two was enough, and I didn't want to go on three when the metagame was just so wide.
Okay. That's fair.
The two revolt, no complaints, didn't banish both any of the times.
Okay.
One order
Yeah.
did not see this once, did not use this once. It was there, just didn't see it at all.
Okay.
So there's the I think oh yeah, okay, so we'll just go into my defensive options. I'll just group them all together.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
these are my defensive options: triple droplet, triple infirm, triple flag filler, triple ash, triple strike.
Okay.
So you can probably see that this deck is obviously built for the mirror match primarily because these 12 are very, very good in the mirror match.
Hmm.
Um, while also having sort of like overlay into like other matchups as well. But one, two, sort of three, these nine So these 9 at least are horrendous against Virtual World. Like
Okay.
Virtual just doesn't care,
Yeah.
right? This doesn't interact well. This negates like the Crystal Wing, sure, but like that's one interruption. You don't really care about the Crystal Wing
Yeah.
anyways. This doesn't do anything aside from like hitting some of the synchros, but like they generate value already.
Hmm.
Um, these are nice, but like obviously not for going first. So like really, the main deck wise, I only have this, right? To like actually have some way of stopping it, like this and a prayer.
Yeah.
So these cards were very sort of poorly sort of positioned against Dragon Link, which I played twice,
Hmm.
and Virtual, which I also played twice. But like they were very good in the mirror match, and so like I beat my mirror match opponent like within 10 minutes, just because like how easy game one was
Yeah.
from going first, and then like how my side deck was built for the mirror match in terms of like going second.
Side deck aside,
Game
though,
two.
I wanted to just mention this because I did see it in your interview afterwards, like after you had won the tournament. Um,
Mhm,
the thing that's really nice about these cards you're showing right now is they are really good going first, but they're also really good going second.
mhm,
And it's one of those things that a lot of people I know, myself included, like when I first started playing Tri Brigade, or if anyone's like new to playing Tri Brigade, I know a lot of people say like their automatic response is Tri has a really hard time going second. But when you're playing strikes and droplet or imperm ash, like it makes, in my opinion at least, Tri one of those decks that can really go first and second, and you can still be successful in either like way essentially.
Yeah, for sure, exactly. Because of like how many non-agent defensive cards you're running, you have a lot of flexibility in terms of going first and second, in addition to the zoo package as well. I just felt like these 9 cards weren't great in terms of the matchups I faced.
Okay,
Like they worked, obviously. I wouldn't be here if they didn't work.
of course.
But I didn't like. I was scared of going second, uh, after losing a die roll game one, just
Hmm.
because of like I wasn't confident in the tech choices that my main deck had. But they worked out.
Okay, so it's a 40 card main deck.
40 card main deck.
Okay, 40 cards with 3 desires. You're actually
Um,
risky.
yeah, and so droplets actually, I'll just touch upon this later because shout out to Kent for lending me these last minute, like literal last minute.
Oh, okay.
Um, so droplets was a very late inclusion. Before droplets, I was playing. So I was playing the third revolt, and I was playing 2 cosmics. Cosmics because I was scared of rivalry, and rightly so.
Hmm.
And also, cosmic has a nice overlap because when I'm playing in twin, those are 5 quick play spells that are going to be live in the standby phase,
Yeah.
against Prankids,
Yeah.
right? And 5 is sort of like the magical number that you want to hit in terms of consistency for drawing a card in your opening 5,
Hmm.
right? And when you're opening 6, obviously going second, those odds just become much better. But when I thought about it, I was like, what the act, and then this was also sort of Cosmic was also in mind for like Virtual World, also in mind for the mirror match as well, just like blind hitting a revolt. But like I felt like those weren't good enough reasonings for running Cosmic.
Hmm.
And so when I thought about it, like the actual problem that I'm trying to deal with is not the revolt itself, but the Omen. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to deal with
Apollo.
Apollo, and I'm trying to deal with what's that last card? Battle Butler,
Oh yeah.
right? And so the cosmic blind, hopefully hitting the pandemonium didn't feel right to me, and I felt like forbidden droplets was a guaranteed answer to those threats, while also having overlap into Dragon Link as well.
Okay.
Um, and so from that standpoint, that was like the late inclusion of Dragon Link, and also why I cut the revolt down, just because I felt like forbidden droplets was a very good call, and I think it performed decently well.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know if I actually activated this. But the theory wise, I felt like it was needed.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was a lengthy explanation, but that was my main deck. So this is just very standard extra deck. This like you'll never see or rarely ever see a different Tri-Brigade extra deck.
Yeah.
Uh, 5. Then go 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah. This
Um,
is this is pretty standard. Like
this is like
if you've ever seen a
yeah,
Tri Brigade profile, this is probably what you've seen.
this is literally it.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll touch upon is before people were sort of hesitant on the value of double Dragon Lords,
Hmm.
perhaps it being cuttable or not. With rivalry running around in people's main decks and side decks in the metagame now, like this is uncuttable. Like this
Oh,
is
of
your answer.
course.
This is why your deck is sort of better than Prankits, because Prankits have no out to rivalry or Gozen.
Hmm.
Like within the engine, they have nothing. But you have double Dragon Lords. And that is why Tri Brigades I feel is marginally better than Prankits,
Yeah.
even if it has a lower ceiling, is that you have in-engine outs to like multiple different problems. Okay, and so side deck is I felt like where my deck really shined,
Hmm.
and where a lot of the help was really valuable in terms of all the assistance I got from multiple people. So Two Nibiru.
Yes.
Two is weird, but like I only had space for two, so two. This was a last minute inclusion as well. This was originally supposed to be Ghost Spell,
Hmm.
but we thought about it, and then Ghost Spell was only valuable for prank kids, while not really being that great against anything else.
Well, it's
But
not it's not
Nibiru,
bad into the revolt, but you built your deck to beat Try anyways, so it might be overkill
yeah.
to
So
play the
like
Bell.
yeah, and like most of the time, people have the Appaloosa
Hmm.
right for the revolt, and so like I don't like having like banking on my opponent not having a certain card
Hmm.
or my opponent structuring their plays in a certain way. Like I like my answers to be consistent, which is sorta hypocritical because Bell was for prank kids, but like this also has overlapping to prank kids because I feel like a lot of prank kids lists now don't respect Nibiru, so they're playing cards like Parallel Exceed,
Yeah.
they're playing cards like Poly,
Yeah.
and they're going for those combos. So it is hypocritical because I am banking on my opponent to be playing those like trendy lists now.
Yeah.
But even if they don't play Nibiru game one, there's very little ways in terms of like them being able to like actually kill you or like push for damage without playing into Nibiru.
Yeah.
Like there's very little ways. Like they would have to play very conservatively each time, and that lets you just stay in the game. But like if they push, Nibiru just punishes them,
Yeah.
right? Like there's no way around it. And so this was also very, very, very good against my Dragon Link opponents. And there were two. I
Of
played both of
course.
them.
Yeah.
Both of them were exceptional people, exceptional players of the decks actually. And also Nibiru was supposed to be in theory good against Virtual World.
Yeah.
And I also played this card post side going first against Char Brigade, not going
Okay.
second, going first, because Char Brigade can't deal with your board, break your board, and push for damage without playing into Nibiru. Like they
Yeah.
have to commit, right? It's either a Zeus, it's either through Karas combos. Like they have to push to actually deal with your board, right?
Yeah.
If they don't deal with your board turn one and you have the revolt live and you get everything going, they lose. Like the game's done there,
Yeah.
right? But if they break your board, they have to commit a lot more resources from their hand to like actually break the board and set up their own board, and then that's when Nibiru punishes them.
Okay.
And because like how I like to play the deck is that I like to diversify my disruptions, just so like I don't lose to any specific thing, right? So like if I have Apple up here, I'll have like a revolt down here, and I like to have like a hand trap or two in hand.
Yeah.
Just like there's no one answer to deal with the entire board, and that's what I like about Tribigate a lot, and not about Prankits, is that Prankits loses like Twin Twister or like a hand trap in their combo or something like that. Whereas Tribigate, you always have questions for your opponent's
Yeah.
plays, right? Whether that be back row, front row, hand. And obviously, the hand is something your opponent cannot interact with,
Of
which
course.
makes it really strong, especially going first. Like your opponent is going to be playing board breakers, right? They're not going to be, trying to play around Nibiru because they don't have the luxury to.
Yeah. Of course.
So, and for setting patterns, I take out 3 Ash from my deck to play 2 Nibiru, and I'll take out one imperm. I'll take out 2 imperms, and the third Ash to put in triple judgment.
Okay.
Just because people are going to be expecting, you're expecting back row hate anyways,
Of
so
course.
you don't want to play imperm when you're expecting back row hate, and the Ash isn't really that great against Trepigate.
Okay.
These are like the explanations. My bad.
No, it's fine. It's actually better. I mean, people are coming to see a champions list to, I guess, understand how he became the champion. So it makes sense why you're explaining. But Gamma's
Yes.
pretty standard, I think, or no?
Gamma was standard in the main deck. I felt when people were playing Rescue Cat, right?
Mhm.
Because it safeguards Rescue Cat.
For sure.
Now that some people are playing Tri-Brigade, it's not that standard because I feel like there's not a lot of plays. Like the only place you can actually protect your cards from Gamma would be Fractal or perhaps Desires, which isn't that great. And I'm only using Gamma going second, like just
Yeah.
literally as a hand trap, not as a
course.
defensive card.
Yeah.
Um, it works against Prankets, works against the mirror match, works against Dragon, Virtual World. Like it's so good that it just like shuts things down, right?
Yeah.
I take out 3 Ash to put in 3 Gamma going second because Ash is really bad in the mirror match. Don't play Ash in the mirror match.
Yeah.
It's really only hitting Fractal. 3 Gamma and then Lightning Storm.
Yep. I saw you
Such a
top
good,
deck this. I saw you top deck this in the finals.
such a good card. Like your opponent is going to either be committing cards to the back row or the front row, right?
Yeah.
And in terms of card economy, you are always going to be going plus with Lightning Storm. Like there's
Yeah.
no way about it. They're either like going for like so you're either trading 3 Apple negates for Lightning Storm, or you're trading with like multiple cards in the back row with Lightning Storm.
Yeah.
Like it's such a good card, right? I don't like playing Twin in the mirror because I don't think people are going to be playing Antespon in the mirror just because there's very little value. You're only stopping cards like Tenki and Desires at
Yeah.
most because you only play like 6 spells.
Mhm.
So I don't think people play that. Lightning Storm's also very good against Virtual World. Deals with Chuche if they have it up. Good against Dragon Link as well. Deals with tidying and Revelry or whatever front row board they have.
Yep.
Twin for back row matchups, Prank Kid especially. My siding pattern against like Tri Brigade is like 3 Storms and 1 Twin. It's weird, but like it's
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah. Okay.
And then 3 Judgment. Last
course.
minute, I was considering Anti-Spell just because of the field, and I thought like Anti-Spell just really helps with the overall matchups that this deck struggles with, being like spell-based decks. But like Judgment is such a just a good generic card that's just always live. And I think Judgment was really good in stopping cards like Rivalry being flipped up on you.
Yeah.
Because if your opponent just like flips Rivalry on you, you need to like you're in such an awkward position. So having Judgment for that is nice. Having Judgments for their outs to your board is nice. Really solid card.
Listen, I'm not gonna say I'm a champion, so I'm not gonna talk like that. But I actually also did the same thing with you. Like I cut the anti spells because I felt like even when they were good, everyone is playing back row hate now. So
Exactly.
how often is your floodgate gonna stay on the board? And yeah, that's why I
Exactly.
decided to go with the judgments as well. But yeah, congratulations, man. Oh no, go ahead.
Yeah, just to add on to that, like your reasoning is completely correct, right? Because like if they're going like Twin outing your anti-spell, then a lot of time like Twin discarding Kit is such a value play
Yeah.
because you're starting your engine while also getting rid of their cards.
Mhm.
But Twin discarding a card to hit 2 of your cards, and then you judgment that, you just lost 2 cards from their hand, and they only hit 1, so like they
Yeah.
essentially -1.
No, yeah, 100%. But yeah, congratulations, bro.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, this is kind of big for you. I'm actually really excited for you. You know what's funny is I don't know if you saw, but I actually posted on my community tab, I think on Friday or maybe Thursday, and I said like, oh yo, Rehan's playing in the remote duel invitational, and then I said like send him your energy, like some Goku spirit bombs type of stuff, and yeah, you ended up winning. So congratulations, bro. I think I'm gonna take credit for that.
Yeah, go for it. I went undefeated, surprisingly.
Yeah, I know you had one tie the entire tournament.
I had 1 tie and like everything else I won.
Yeah, that was huge. That was huge, bro. Congratulations. Do you have any shoutouts before just we end off the video?
Shout out to Kent again for lending me droplets. Those games, that was very
Yeah, of
important
course.
to the list. Shout out to Robert for helping me test. Shout out to some of the other guys from Duelist Academy for really helping me test and sort of theory craft the deck. Like they were integral to the process. And I think shout out to like all my opponents. I think I really enjoyed playing in the Invitational, but like I was also really lax in Top Cut, right? Because like I knew the guys, and the guys were also just very chill, so they made like playing a really enjoyable experience, and it didn't feel like a competition per se. It just felt like I was at a locals, I was like playing with people.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Anyways, yeah, congratulations again. Thank you everyone who's watched. If you guys have any thoughts or ideas or anything, let me know in the comment section down below. I'm sure Rehan's also going to be in the comment section talking to you guys if you have any questions. And yeah, that's really all I gotta say. Congratulations again, bro. And with that, Spanko signing out. Oh wait, Spanko and Ray signing out. Peace.
Get up, bring one to get on your face.